I was serving. I'm a restaurant because I know a lot of you here probably won't know what else I do on the side. You know what I'm saying? But I'm a server. I work at a restaurant. As well as, I do syndication and DV work for IGN, and I make PlayStation content, and I've talked about PlayStation and podcasts about PlayStation for nearly a decade at this point. And I was listening to just now, actually, to the epilogue for Mega Ran's The Black Materia. Now, I will be using the piano Mega Ran. But I have emailed you. I emailed you a few weeks back. I didn't get a response, but whether this video gets claimed or not doesn't really matter to me, to be honest with you. I just was so incredibly moved by your epilogue on the Black Materia remake album, because you basically answer, not only the journey of what Final Fantasy VII means to you and what the process was like to create that album, the Black Materia album, and the remake specifically, and all that came wrong with that, and how it wasn't exactly how you envisioned it, the journey going to making that album. It really impacted me, and that's still my favorite track on the album. I know it's a bit of an unpopular opinion, but your epilogue is just incredible, and that really inspired me to create this project. And that was back in around like November, October. So it's been about 2 or 3 months or so. And I've been thinking about what this would look like, in a way to really honor Final Fantasy VII and honor the release of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because we are recording this. It's 8:43. The game is out in about an hour and 17 minutes. And I can't believe it. Like, I can't believe it. And I will answer what Final Fantasy VII means. But before I get into my answer about that, I asked my peers. I asked my friends. I asked people in the industry. I asked big people that I know love this game. Whether they just came across the remake in 2020 or the original game back in 1998, 1997, depending on where you were at in the world. What does Final Fantasy VII mean to you in 2024? And, us gamers, I feel like we're really good at doing little bookmarks in history based off of games that were around that time, and like games that were big around that particular time in your life. And I definitely do that, and I just wanted to make something here that chronicles this time and really puts a bookmark and something that people are able to look back on. I really hope that the developers at Square Enix, can look back at this someday and see what the energy was like leading up to Rebirth, and see how much Final Fantasy VII meant to us in 2024. And that's where I kind of, leading with Mega Ran's epilogue, and that's kind of how I birthed the overall kind of concept of this project. And I just wanted to have something that will stand the test of time and will always be around, hopefully, if YouTube servers work and such like that. You know what I'm saying? But I will keep a copy myself. And I will be using Mega Ran. I will be using your epilogue, and I'm sorry that I didn't get proper. I sent the email out, you know what I'm saying? But I just wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't have it over any beat than this epilogue instrumental. But I guess it's my turn. What does Final Fantasy VII mean to me? And before, I know I said I was about to get into it, but before I get into it, down below in the description, you will see everyone that submitted a video over the course of this next hour or so, of their answers to that question of what does Final Fantasy VII mean to them in 2024. You'll find their links down below, their Twitters, their Twitch links, their link trees, their portfolio, some of them down there, their muck racks, etc. Like, you will find all that down below in the description, either in one condensed Google Doc link that I might have to make if the description doesn't work and it's too long, or they'll be all right there just for you to click and to look. And everyone will be timestamped as well in the description of this video. So if you want to jump around to find your favorite, creator or your favorite podcaster or your favorite person in the industry, you can do that and skip me. You know what I'm saying? That's fine. But I have my coffee here. I'm not gonna drink it yet, but besides that, there's no more stalling. What does Final Fantasy 7 mean to me? And I intentionally wanted to do this last. I wanted to edit everyone's first and then do it last, to really just take a little step back and see. Well, not even really take a step back. To be honest with you, I don't know how to answer this question. I've thought a lot about how I would find the words to describe it, and I get a little teary-eyed at the thought of it. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully I don't crack here on this video. But Final Fantasy 7 changed my life. Final Fantasy 7 Remake changed my life. I celebrated my 22nd, I think. Yeah, my 22nd birthday in 2020. 22nd? Yeah, 22nd. 22nd birthday in 2020. And I was out with my guys, whatever. And, I celebrate on Leap Day, actually. It was a Saturday on 2020, during the year 2020. And I had a good time, whatever. And then on Monday, the following Monday, I hear this, weird report on my local news station that, there was someone in the area that I was at in Phoenix, partying for my birthday. There was someone infected with COVID-19 there. And I was like, damn, that's okay. It's kind of weird. like I was just hearing stuff that was overseas or far away from here and nowhere near Phoenix, Arizona, and then we shut down about 2 weeks after. I wasn't able to, serve at the restaurant I was at. I wasn't, we all had to do what we had to do at that time. I won't go over and hash what happens. We all know. But a couple weeks later, a game came out called Final Fantasy 7 Remake, and I played the demo beforehand, and you can still watch my first time playing it. And I liked it, but I didn't fall in love with it yet, And then I played Remake because it's kind of what I had to do, being locked in my apartment at the time, for the foreseeable future at that point. And it changed my life. It's I think the thing that I've said, if you hear the dryer, my bad. I think the one way I've described this in the past is that it gave me a child wonder that I didn't know that I could feel again. It opened me up to a whole world and a whole band of characters that I never knew that I could love an IP and love a story and love a group of characters like I do with Final Fantasy 7 as a 22-year-old. You know what I'm saying? It feels weird to say that, but there's a certain magic to Final Fantasy 7, and I haven't found it since. And and I've played a lot. I've experienced a lot of stories, and I would love to feel it again, but I don't know if anything's gonna hit quite like Final Fantasy 7. Its story, its premise is so pertinent and so timely as well. When you really think about what's going on, how you're playing an eco-terrorist, you are fighting against an evil corporation that is compromising the planet that they live on and the air that they breathe and the soil that's under them. It's this corporation is compromising the planet, and it's just something that is so pressing today, but and with Remake specifically, I'll stand by this. It's my favorite combat system, period. It's damn near perfect. And of course we can't ignore the story. The music. Story as well, but the music of Final Fantasy 7 is a magic. I listen to it consistently still. I'll, shout out to Mega Ran, like I said before, the Black Materia album, the remake version. I listen to that very consistently at the gym as well and all that. But it just it just did something to me, you know. I think that's probably how I'll best sum it up. It really just gave me a child wonder of exploring these characters, and Cloud and Tifa and Barrett and Vincent and Yuffie and Aerith and Red 13 / Nanaki, and even all of, even Kate Sith, even that little mother, you know what I'm saying? Even Kate Sith, you know what I'm saying? To Sephiroth, to the Turks, to President Shinra and Rufus, and just the whole thing. Of course, Zack. Of course, come on, my boy Zack. Of course, Zack. Of course, come on, Zack. Yes, and Genesis. And when I played Remake, I went back and played the original game. Loved it. And then I went so far as to, get my old PS2 out. And yes, I imported a copy of Dirge of Cerberus, and I did actually physically play it. It's not a good game. Just watch a recap story, guys. You know what I'm saying? Don't play Dirge of Cerberus. I imported the PSP to play Crisis Core. I rented Amazon. I rented on Amazon Advent Children, and I watched it. Like, I became so obsessed with this world. And I think, at the end of the day, that is, I think, what kind of helped me through a time that we all went through in 2020, where, coming from me specifically, I had just graduated 2 months prior in December. So I graduate college. I have all these grand ambitions of, doing what I want to do in the games industry and becoming a prominent voice in the games industry, and specifically, hopefully, being able to keep up my beat with PlayStation. And that kind of all slided to a halt, because we all had to kind of go inside, and we all had to kind of figure things out, and that was a particular kind of tough for me coming right out of college. But I'm sure it was tough for everyone else, and everyone had it a lot worse, of course. And a lot of people had a lot of different things going on during that time. But just for me specifically, that was a big mental hurdle for me, was, this is how I'm starting out right after college. This is where we're at. And I'm not saying things have been perfect since then. I'm not saying, things have been grand old sunshine and rainbows and such. You know what I'm saying? If you follow the channel, I didn't post a lot last year. And some things happened, but at the end of the day, I thank Final Fantasy VII for giving me something to experience, and something to feel, and something to get lost in, and feel a little bit like a childhood wonder, a childhood kid again, that can't get enough of something. So I think that's what it means to me. And it's just very special. It's a really special game. And I'll always I'm trying not to break, fellas, you know what I'm saying? But I'm always gonna hold it close to me. I don't think it'll ever not be my favorite game of all time. And I thank Square Enix. I thank everyone that wanted to be a part of this, and you will hear some very personal stories, after this point when you go through the video, and you'll hear a lot of moving things and a lot of wonderful, sentiments about Final Fantasy VII. And I don't want to give up any names and spoil any surprises, you know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of really good people that got to collaborate on this project. And once again, I really just want to underline the links are down below in the description. Please go check them out. And I thank each and every one of you for being a part of this, because at the end of the day, I truly do mean it when I wanted this to honestly be an archive piece that developers can look back on and see, what did we feel about Final Fantasy VII, and what did it mean to us in 2024. So I will let the first presenter take it away.
What's up? It's your boy Jess19 here. And what does Final Fantasy VII mean to me? Well, that's kind of tough, because I, for one, never played the original. I didn't have a PS1 back in the day. But I'm a huge fan of Remake. My first dip into Final Fantasy VII itself was Advent Children back in 2006, and I've never seen anything like it. and I knew some of the characters from Kingdom Hearts. While I never played the OG, I can tell you what Final Fantasy VII Remake means to me. Remake means happiness, because this has been one of those games everyone, and I mean everyone, wanted a remaster or a remake from. Nostalgia, because even though I never played the OG, I knew people who did and they loved it, and it takes me back to when I was a kid with my friends. The combat in Remake makes me want more of it. The cutscenes and how much work they put into it makes me happy, because I know they put their blood, heart, and soul into that game to make sure it was right. Remake may have some differences, but I think Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy VII has that light versus darkness or good versus evil tone to it. It means friendship, not giving up on what you believe in and going with your heart. It wants us to be brave because we battle our demons to try to overcome them. The power to overcome adversities. And finally, it means to protect the ones that we love and cherish. And that's what Final Fantasy VII Flash Remake means to me. Also, one more thing. Jesse's Bay.
I played very little of the original Final Fantasy VII, so once Final Fantasy VII Remake came about, it meant that I was able to enjoy this cult classic with not only all the OGs who remember the original and played the original to death, but all the newbies just like myself who were experiencing this incredible story for the first time. Final Fantasy VII Remake to me is almost like an old friend you're seeing again after so many years. They might have changed slightly due to the years going on, but you know that they're still the same good nurtured person on the inside.
Hey guys, it is Brandon from the podcast HP Critical, as well as the Twitch channel, Mr. Louis Dunn. And when it comes to Final Fantasy VII, I must fully confess, my love for that series is still in its infancy. I did not play the PS1 original back when it originally came out. My first introduction to the Final Fantasy characters was actually in Kingdom Hearts of all things. Because for anyone who's played those games, you know, Cloud, Sephiroth, Aerith, Cid, and many more, they all appear in those games. That was my first exposure to these characters. But it did get me into the Final Fantasy series, which I had never tried before those games had come out. So, you know, eventually I got into Final Fantasy X, which is still my favorite Final Fantasy, but it would take a while before I eventually got into Final Fantasy VII specifically. And, you know, fast forward many years later, we got the announcement of Final Fantasy VII Remake. And as someone that was like always curious about that game in particular, the remake really spoke to me. It was something that I really wanted to try. So sure enough, 2020 comes, and you know, that wasn't the best year for the world, but it was a great year for gamers, and that's when I finally got to try Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I fell in love with the game. It became pretty damn close to my game of the year that year it came out. I just loved how the characters were portrayed, how you got to see them fleshed out in a way that I don't think the original got to do, at least within the first portion that it covered. And I came to the realization that, you know, we're not getting the exact same story that players got when they played Final Fantasy VII for the very first time. And that's exciting. I want to see not only how they develop existing story plots, but what kind of new stuff are they going to introduce. So I'm very much looking forward to where the story goes from here. It should be very exciting. I hope a certain character makes it, but I guess we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, can't wait for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's going to be great.
Hi, my name is AshSaidHi, and I'm here to talk to you about Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII was one of the first Final Fantasy games I ever played, and it left a deep impact on me. From the music, to the characters, to the story, to the amazing cutscenes, the magic system with the materia, the boss battles, everything. I absolutely love that game. I still think back, in fact, to the first time I heard the Golden Saucer music. Like, that track is so amazing. Or even Costa del Sol. And I have a lot of really good memories playing that game with my cousin, trying to defeat Emerald weapons, trying to defeat Ruby weapons, racing chocobos, and, you know, just having fun in the game. I played it when it originally came out on the PlayStation 1, and there was nothing like it at the time, right? Like, it was absolutely amazing. And just like seeing 3D cutscenes alone blew my mind away. So I think today in 2024, Final Fantasy VII means a lot because they have all these cool remakes coming out, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coming out, and, the reimagining of how the characters look and all that kind of stuff. I think it guides some of our experiences with the way we play games today, because it had an impact on, like what people consider popular RPGs, and probably opened the door to a lot of people playing games in that genre. So I am so glad that we're able to have a conversation about Final Fantasy VII, because it's amazing. And I hope if you've never played it, that you get the chance to play it too. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm David Burdette, lead editor with GamingTrend.com, and I've been asked to answer the question, what does Final Fantasy VII mean in 2024? Now, my introduction to Final Fantasy VII is a little bit different than most people's. I was introduced in Kingdom Hearts, so I met the characters. The characters were what were so impactful to me, and now that I watched Advent Children, engaged with that, never ended up going back to the PlayStation 1 game, even though I bought it for my PSP Go, is what I remember grabbing that one for. Never ended up sitting down and just playing through it. But when Final Fantasy VII Remake came out, I was able to engage with these characters really for the first time, because you don't get that much engagement with them just on that personal level in Kingdom Hearts. You don't get that in Advent Children because you're watching it. You're not personally like just engaging with it. And for me, what Final Fantasy VII means after playing Remake is it's this world that I'm getting to be a part of, with these characters that are going through a lot of real things. And I can kind of relate to some of the different things. Like Cloud, he does not know who he is. He is fighting with all of these different emotions, all of these different things in his life that are they're right, they're wrong. He wants to shut down and just not help. He just wants to do his thing and get out of there. But he can't. He has, the world around him needs a hero, and he has to be that. And that story, those characters, they mean a lot to me because it's real life. It's what I experience. And that's what Final Fantasy VII means to me, is just the fact that, I have to rise above my surroundings, and I can't just shut down and just try to live my life without meaning. I have to go out there. I have to grab a hold of my purpose. And that's what Final Fantasy VII means to me.
Final Fantasy VII Remake means a lot to me. It was my game of the year in 2020, not only because of how great it is, but also because of how it made me feel, and because it got me through one of the most difficult years of my life. Hope is one of Final Fantasy VII's main themes. The members of Avalanche struggle with the idea of hope, and whether they should hold on to it at all. As the newest recruit, Cloud has the most doubt as to whether they'll be able to make any difference against the massive Shinra corporation. This battle between hope and helplessness was a constant in 2020 for many. Watching the number of infections and deaths paired with downward spikes in my own mental health was extremely difficult. But teaming up with Avalanche to take down Shinra helped not only as a distraction from real-world problems, but it felt like a group strength-building exercise. 4 years later, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is almost upon us. COVID and mental health are still problems, but things have gotten more manageable, and life doesn't feel quite as hopeless anymore.
For me, as somebody who was born the year Final Fantasy VII came out originally and never touched it until the HD release on PS4 in 2015, and never beat it until last fall in full, I think Remake is a gold standard across multiple fronts. One of them just being a remake, another being action combat. But remakes inherently pull on nostalgia. Heartstrings get tugged. And again, as somebody who was born the year that this game changed the world, all of my nostalgia for these characters really came from a more meta angle of being familiar with them and seeing them online for years, and most importantly, knowing them as Kingdom Hearts characters.
Hey, are you alright?
Yeah. So when it came time for me to play Final Fantasy VII Remake, a game that I was absolutely excited for, I found myself really loving it in a way that I hadn't felt in a game since I played Kingdom Hearts 2 on the PS2 and experienced something that was messing with the player, was really taking a big swing, at narrative in a way that I think we don't see many games in this space do or have the chance to do. And as someone who just finished a replay of it and did the entire compilation, I watched Dirge of Cerberus, okay, most of us did. I still think that it is the high bar and ceiling for what this series can do.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Calvin Dimas, and I own FreshShakeGames.org, a video game review site. And today I'll be sharing what Final Fantasy VII means to me in 2024. So what initially attracted me to Final Fantasy VII was its a mix of modern technology and fantasy elements like spells, swords, monsters, and also Cloud and his party have this instantly captivating story as a group of rebels whose goal it was to take down a giant corporation. Now, what made me fall in love with Final Fantasy VII was Cloud and his party's journey. In 2008, my mother was diagnosed with a cancerous tumor, and luckily she's still alive today. But at that time, there was a lot of unknowns, and I was unsure how both my mother and my own life would change. Luckily, things worked out for the best, but I always felt this part of my life parallel with Cloud and his party as they're leaving Midgar and venturing into the unknowns to find Sephiroth. Now, there's a ton of elements in Final Fantasy VII that make it an amazing game, but I think the fact that it got me through this tough time makes it a standout as one of my favorite games of all time. So that is what Final Fantasy VII means to me in 2024.
I think the thing that impressed me most about the remix of Final Fantasy VII is the actual approach to the reimagining. It's not your traditional remake that we genuinely think of. I'm kind of going off some speculation and theories, but it seems like there's some sort of play with the timeline that makes the game less of a retelling and more of a sequel akin to like movies like Neon Genesis Evangelion. If you know, you know. Honestly, I'd put the two 7Rs up there as marquee examples of how to handle remaking or expanding on an old game or older IP. Up there with the likes of RE2 remake, the re-envisioning of God of War with 2018, and I don't know, maybe even RE4 remake. I don't know. My point is that a lot of studios just don't get it right by remaking games as part of a trend-chasing scheme to cash in on player nostalgia in order to keep the practice of development afloat. Who knows? That's probably maybe even a wider industry issue, but for now, we can at least say that the FF7 team is part of that exception, crafting a reimagining with the utmost care. So even if you aren't someone who's super into Final Fantasy, you can at least admire and respect the commitment from afar, because honestly, there just isn't a lot of studios doing what that team is doing at that level of scope. And that's pretty cool.
So with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coming out in a couple of days, a couple of weeks, I answer the question, what does Final Fantasy VII mean to me in 2024? And it has largely the same significance for me now as it did when I was a kid. It's not my favorite Final Fantasy. It's not even my first Final Fantasy, but it played a very big role in creating a bond between my brother and I. We're 7 years apart, and his love for Final Fantasy VII, it being his favorite game of all time, is a big reason why we got into gaming together. And it's a big reason why I fell in love with the Final Fantasy franchise. There are so many themes in Final Fantasy VII that resonate even today. Political themes, environmental themes, themes of family that, regardless of blood bonds, regardless of where people come from, your family comes in many forms. And that's something that's still really significant for me to this day. I loved everything about Final Fantasy VII Remake. I think it is as perfect of a game as you could possibly get, and I cannot wait to see what this team has done with Rebirth, because everything that we've seen so far just looks absolutely fantastic. Can't wait to see what adventures and shenanigans Cloud and the rest of the team get into this time around. So Final Fantasy VII, I think, will remain a timeless story for many different reasons, and I really hope that the team at Square Enix is able to not only make old fans happy, but bring in new fans as well.
What does Final Fantasy VII mean to me in 2024? Well, Final Fantasy VII is my favorite game of all time. In my opinion, I feel like it has the best cast in the Final Fantasy series. and this is why it still has some relevancy within 2024. It is also the first game that I actually created guides. I was writing down strategy guides and stuff for my friends in the school library, as they had got to difficult parts in the game, or just wanted certain cool things to do or things to find within the game. And in 2024, with Rebirth coming out, you can still see how impactful a game like Final Fantasy VII is. That's due to the fact of how anticipated it is. Everyone that played the original game is clamoring to see what changes, what new aspects they're going to do within the story. And yeah, I fall in that category as well. I love this game. I love Cloud Strife, my favorite, video game character of all time. And I just want to see how they further the character as far as this character depth. And want to see what they do with the other characters. Like, I feel like Final Fantasy VII, the reason why it's my favorite is due to the cast. And I feel like with every cast in Final Fantasy VII, you can create a game or some type of, expansion from it that's due to how deep the lore is with these characters. And can't wait to see what they do in Rebirth as far as some of the character, story plots, as the game opened up in the original game. We're here in Rebirth where we're going to be playing those, opening parts of the game. And I just want to see what they're going to be doing. So, yeah, I love Final Fantasy VII. It means a lot to me. And I do appreciate the developers taking their time to create and, fulfill that nostalgic need for a game like this with introducing new aspects of the game. So, yeah, it is very, very relevant. And it does still mean a lot to me in 2024. See you guys in Rebirth.
When I think about what Final Fantasy VII means to me, it's kind of funny, because if someone asks me what my favorite Final Fantasy is, it actually isn't that one. It's close, it's up there, it's in like the top 5, but it's not number 1. But when I think about the impact that game had on me growing up, and really just the cultural significance it holds for the RPG genre in general, it is in my mind and arguably the most important Final Fantasy. Growing up, I actually never had an original PlayStation. I waited all the way until the PS2. And so for a lot of games, Final Fantasy VII especially, it was really something that I was experiencing secondhand. I just remember seeing commercials of the game and talking with any friends I had who did own it so I could learn as much about it, finding excuses to go to friends' houses to watch them play through the game, even thumbing through their strategy guide so I could just look at all the screenshots and pictures and bits of character concept art that made its way in. It was just something that immediately clicked with me, and a game that was on my mind constantly, even as, additional sequels were coming out and other big RPGs were releasing. I remember when I finally did get the chance to, grab a PS2 and then start working my way through a lot of the games I missed out on the PlayStation 1. It just ended up being one of my favorite gaming experiences of that time, even though by that point there were plenty of newer and shinier, better looking games that had come out on a next-gen system. I hold the original FF7 as being one of those games that really was foundational in shaping my tastes in games growing up, and really what my current tastes in games are. I try to play a variety of genres, but ever since really the late 90s when FF7 came out, RPGs have been that number one genre and focus for me, because there was a level of storytelling in that game and lore building that just didn't really feel like anything else had tapped into yet. And that has forever stuck with me.
I was 14 years old the first time that I played Final Fantasy VII. I got it for my birthday because my parents knew that I loved the series, so they bought me a PlayStation and that game, and I played it religiously through the night and in the coming weeks. But ever since that first time that I laid my hands on this game, it has stuck with me for a lot of reasons, but specifically because of the story and the characters. They have been with me through every phase of my life. I've played Final Fantasy VII at least once a year since it was released, and I've played the remake several times as well. This story stuck with me because not only was it the first mature story that I'd ever played as a kid, but it had layers of psychology that met me exactly where I was as a 14-year-old boy. Like a lot of 14-year-old boys, I had an identity crisis, right? Who am I? What am I here for? That sort of thing. And seeing Cloud struggle with those same questions, struggling with, am I good enough for the people in my life? Am I strong enough? Those questions really resonated with me as a kid. And somehow using him as an avatar gave me an opportunity to search through those things in my own heart. In fact, using this story and revisiting it so often in my life has given me opportunity to revisit those same themes at different points in my life, working through some of the deep inner heart work that I needed to at every stage. This game has in a lot of ways made me who I am. Not only all of these things, but I just found Cloud to be a perfect avatar for me. And it really doesn't hurt that he's also my same height because, you know, we love a short king, right? But that was one of the things, all of this is one of the things that really hit me about this story, that I saw myself in Cloud. And ultimately, what this story did for me, the way that it really stuck with me, let me see how powerful video game narratives can be, maybe even more so than books and movies. And that ultimately led me down a path of research, a path of trying to integrate video games into education, and ultimately a dissertation, a doctorate, and now I'm a professor of religion and video games, where I talk about Final Fantasy 15 and 16 all day and make content for it. So Final Fantasy 7 has meant the world to me, both for me personally and for the things that I do in life.
Hi you guys, my name is Lex, aka Larxene. As you can see, I am a big Final Fantasy fan, 7 specifically, and honestly what it means to me in today, 2024, it means that, you know, looking at the game and its message, a lot of things still ring true today. We are still misusing our planet and testing and misusing people as a whole. And hopefully we don't get to a point where we end up getting destroyed. But, you know, inside the game, it shows me that a lot of the messages of like sticking together and loss and friendship, as I've gotten older, I've realized that those things are really real life problems. And, you know, looking at the community as well, you see how a lot of people have stuck together through the original release of Final Fantasy VII. Up until now, a lot of people are receiving the story so well, and it's so refreshing to see a group of people enjoy a game and appreciate it so much that they want to continue to share that love and appreciation with others. And it just makes me really excited to see how this next installment of Final Fantasy VII is going to be. The release of Rebirth, I'm super excited for, and I just can't wait to see more people come together and enjoy this experience. So Final Fantasy VII in 2024 to me overall means friendship, love, loss, and appreciation. And I hope that makes sense. Again, my name is Larxene, and thank you so much for including me in this project.
Associate Editor, Game Informer, Wesley LeBlanc. What does Final Fantasy VII mean to me? In many ways, it means everything. It's the reason I'm a game journalist today working for Game Informer. It's the reason I love video games. It's the reason why I love RPGs and JRPGs, and Final Fantasy is my favorite game series. I can probably tie it back to Final Fantasy VII. The reason for that is years and years and years ago, my older brother had a PlayStation 1 and I was not allowed to touch it. It was his PlayStation 1. I got his hand-me-down SNES, and that's how I interacted with games. But I was allowed to watch him play games. And I distinctly remember him watching him play this game where you go around this large map on an airship. There's a guy with spiky yellow hair and he like spins his sword in a circle and it looks really cool, and there's this guy with a big sword, and there's this girl in a red dress that has flowers, and another girl that's like wearing boxing gloves or something. I was enamored with it and I wanted to watch every second I could. Of course I didn't get to because I was very young and he played when he wanted to play, and sometimes I missed out on things. So as much as I loved Final Fantasy VII back then, watching it through my brother as a vehicle who was playing it, it wouldn't be till years and years later when I finally played the game myself that I realized how special Final Fantasy VII is. Obviously, mechanically, it's a great game, and I think it holds up well today. Visually, it was stunning for the time. It blew my mind back then. And sure, it doesn't hold up as much today. The PS1 era is tough on the eyes these days in some ways. But we have Remake, which is stunning and one of the best looking games ever seen, and it's a PS4 game. But what I realized years and years later, finally playing it myself, was that its message is so powerful and so important and somehow stands the test of time. I don't know what they were cooking up back then, but They were almost peeking into the future. This ragtag group of eco-terrorists trying to stop the planet from being destroyed by corporations and single individuals with too much power and ultimately evil from wrecking this earth that we all love and live on. And it's fascinating thinking about that game and how it was able to speak to those themes and speak to that message years and years ago. And now in 2024, we're dealing with that times 10. The earth is on fire. Things are not going well. And perhaps we need our own avalanche to get some things solved. It's an inspiring game. It was an inspiring game back then. It's an inspiring game today. It's the reason I love Final Fantasy. It's what kickstarted my appreciation for that series. And today, Final Fantasy is easily my favorite series of all time. It's one of the reasons I love video games. And if I didn't love video games, I wouldn't be an associate editor at Game Informer. So I could tie back a lot of my life to Final Fantasy VII. And that's why it means so much to me. I'm so excited for Rebirth. The remake was fantastic. Somehow managed to do the perfect remake and more. One of my favorite games of all time. And now we have Rebirth coming out. So exciting. Final Fantasy VII, it rules.
What's up, everyone? I'm Justin, or Disassembled J on Twitch. That's Yara, and today we're here to talk to you about Final Fantasy VII. For me, it's one of my favorite games of all time, and it has been ever since I first played it 24 years ago. It's one of the games I consistently go back to. I play through it almost every year, and every time it's just as special. And that's not surprising because it is one of the most influential games of all time, with such an amazing story that just sucks you in and makes you care so deeply for its characters. And it has some of the most iconic and memorable music of all time, with its prelude, Aerith's theme, Tifa's theme, One Winged Angel, or my personal favorite, Cosmo Canyon. It just envelops you in that world through music. And with Remake, it was able to recapture that wonder. And just like the original, it's been keeping me guessing where the story is going to be going. And it's truly amazing to see that in 2024, Final Fantasy VII not only has a beloved and rich history, but it also has a future. And I can't wait to see where it goes. Bye.
Hello, everybody. My name is VerumDex, and today I'm going to be giving you my answer to the question, what does Final Fantasy VII mean to me? But before I answer that, let me talk about my history with this amazing series. When I was a kid, I grew up playing the original Final Fantasy VII on PlayStation 1. I remember being in such awe at how great this game looked, how expansive the world was, and how cool the spiky-haired hero wielding an absurdly large sword was. During that time in my life, I dealt with a lot of struggles. I was being bullied a lot in school. My home life was pretty dysfunctional, but this game helped me to come out on the other side of these struggles. It helped me to escape, feel hope, and to not feel so alone. And ever since then, Final Fantasy VII has been a constant factor in my life. I went on to watch the Advent Children movie, play the other games in the series such as Dirge of Cerberus and Crisis Core. No matter how old I got, my love for this series never wavered. Fast forwarding to 2020, the world had been plunged into a horrible pandemic. We were separated from one another, filled with uncertainty and fear, and just unsure of when it would end. I remembered feeling so overwhelmed with it all, but then April 10th of that year came around, and the remake of Final Fantasy VII finally released. Again, in one of the hardest points in my life, Final Fantasy VII was there when I needed it most. Seeing that iconic opening with modern graphics and visuals pulled me out of the dark place I was in and allowed me to feel genuine joy. It gave me one of the greatest gaming experiences I've ever had, and one I will remember for the rest of my life. So, what is my answer to what does Final Fantasy VII mean to me? I could never boil it down to one thing, because to me it means hope, perseverance, companionship, and that dark times won't last forever. It's a series that I hold near and dear to my heart, and I cannot wait to rejoin my friends on their next big adventure when Rebirth releases.
So what does Final Fantasy VII mean to me? Well, for starters, I have the t-shirt on. This is a special collaboration with Uniqlo. I love this t-shirt so much. And then I have this, the Buster Sword. This weapon is probably one of my favorite weapons, coming from one of my favorite characters in the series, which is Zack Fair. Shout out to the homie. But this weapon, I just became so, attached to it. The importance it was in that story, right, to the character of Zack and in Geo. And it's funny enough because my history with Final Fantasy VII, it wasn't even from the original game because I was too young to understand it, but actually from the side games like Crisis Core, Dirge of Cerberus, even the movie Advent Children, all of those mediums is kind of what formulated my love for it. Even games like Kingdom Hearts, because they featured characters like Cloud, where again I was just like, who is this character? I need to know more about him. Where I eventually went back and I replayed the original, right, now that I was older and I can understand it better. But I would say the biggest thing for me of what Final Fantasy VII means to me and what I love so much about it, I think it's the character designs, right? That the stories, their stories, and how they, kind of connect to each other, right? The overarching story. It's just one of those games where I play another game. And, if I love a character, I always go back to how much I love the characters of Final Fantasy VII. And just how, I guess it just taught me in video games, like, a really well done character design, right, can go a long way and can create, like a long lasting, I guess you could say, relationship, like with those characters and how much they mean to you and stuff like this. Loving the Buster Sword here and how much it means to me because how much it meant to one of my favorite characters in video games. So that's what I would say is why Final Fantasy VII is important to me.
Hi, my name's Mark. I'm a lead quest designer over on the World of Warcraft team over at Blizzard. And Final Fantasy VII is probably one of those capstone moments in my gaming history that really pushed me into believing that the medium of video games could tell a compelling and heartfelt story. To say that Final Fantasy VII has been influential is quite an understatement in my life. It was the first time that I got to see a character of color act as a main character and have an actual role through Burdette in an RPG. It was the first time that I got to see characters that didn't really know who they were and processing that emotion of trying to find themselves when the whole world had gone to crap through the experiences of Cloud. And it's influenced me so much and been such a huge part of my life that even these days, right, I can show you that I am now currently working on my Final Fantasy VII sleeve. And so I hold it as part of an inspiration for me that I oftentimes look towards its fandom and the people that talk about it and play it and are excited about it. And I aspire, like personally aspire, to bring that to others that are out there in the gaming space. So what does Final Fantasy VII mean to me is a hard question to answer, and I hope this gives you a little glimpse as to how important this franchise is. And I cannot wait for Rebirth to come out. So yeah, that's a little bit about what it means to me.
So I actually didn't play the original Final Fantasy VII, at least when it first came out. It was always something that I've been around and have been playing things that were associated with Final Fantasy VII. Like I knew Cloud and Sephiroth because of Kingdom Hearts, because of Super Smash Brothers and things like that. And of course I played the original Final Fantasy VII, but I never got too far into it. I tried playing it on Switch, I tried playing it through emulation when I was younger. I think I even had it on my PSP, on my PlayStation Vita. I tried over and over and over and over again to play that game, but for some reason I just could not get past the first opening hours. But when Final Fantasy VII Remake came out, I was just like, this is my opportunity to experience this game. And now this remake is probably one of my top 10 favorite games of all time. And the fact that part 2 is coming out this month is incredible. Like as someone who doesn't really know a lot of plot points in Final Fantasy VII, I got spoiled in certain things, but I'm just so excited to experience the next chapter of these characters' journey. Like I fucking love Tifa, I love Yuffie, I love Aerith and Cloud and Barrett, and everyone. I just can't wait to see where the journey takes them and what kind of stuff we'll be experiencing in the sequel. It's going to be so exciting. The new combos you can do, the new relationships that you can form. It's just insane. As a series, it means so much to me, and Final Fantasy in general. It was just like, without Final Fantasy, I don't think I would have my job position that I currently have. I don't think I would have probably been in the industry if it wasn't for Final Fantasy. And just like Square Enix RPGs in general, I guess. But I'm immensely excited for Rebirth, and I can't even imagine what Part 3 is going to look like and how insane it's going to be, and amount of content they're gonna like push into this. But man, yeah, I'm so excited for Rebirth. Cannot wait.
Buddy, my name is Dimitreus, and I wanted to give you guys an insight on why I love Final Fantasy VII so much. So Final Fantasy VII was not my very first Final Fantasy. I remember playing Final Fantasy III on Super Nintendo, which was, we all know, is 6 now. I didn't really know what I was doing back then because I was really young when it was available. So Final Fantasy VII was the one that really grabbed my attention, especially after seeing the commercial. And I remember seeing Cloud riding his motorcycle through parts of Midgar, and I was like, I need to have this game immediately. So I eventually did get it, and my fondest memory is playing through the very first time, and I remember getting to Cloud's hometown, and I was severely underleveled. I wanted to see the story so much that I had started running from every battle that I could just so I can get through the story as fast as I could. And that didn't work out for me. So eventually I had to trade all those hours that I put in the first time and play it again, and eventually level up my characters and make it through the story for the first time. And what a grand story it is. I can't wait to see what Final Fantasy Rebirth does with the story. And I can't wait to see how Cloud and Sephiroth's dynamic may change or differ this time around. I think Sephiroth is still one of my favorite villains of all time. Definitely. He's definitely in my top 3 for sure. He's such a complicated villain, and I love that about him. So I'm looking forward to seeing all the new characters that get introduced, as well as the characters that haven't been introduced yet, such as Vincent and Sid as well. So I'm looking forward to Final Fantasy Rebirth and the 3rd game as well, whenever we do get that and we can have a full trilogy. But yeah, that's my love for Final Fantasy VII.
What does Final Fantasy VII mean to me in the year 2024? I mean, it's Final Fantasy is one of the most important franchises in gaming, I believe, and it's by far my favorite. Final Fantasy VII was my introduction to the series back in 2003, and I've loved JRPGs ever since. What I think it means now is a return of a classic, return of the king, so to speak, with quality of life adjustments, right? For a modern audience to get to experience One Winged Angel, the bombing mission music, for those about to fight. I think it's for those two who are about to fight. I forget the name of the song exactly, but I think of those tracks, and like, even no matter how old they are, I still get like goosebumps when I hear those. And the fantasy fair and all that. Final Fantasy VII is one of the most phenomenal stories in gaming. I mean, obviously it's an open secret what happens, but now maybe not. Things might change this time. Who knows? So I'm very excited to play. It's by far, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is by far my most anticipated title for this year. So I'm excited to play it, and I think it's just a good time, a return to the king for everybody, for those who missed out the first time and those who now have the chance to play it. We're gonna have a big old reunion. So yeah.
What's going on, everybody? It's Macho here from the Boricua Macho channel. Final Fantasy VII to me is more than just a video game. There's just so many things about it that I've applied to my life, that I still apply to my life to this day. It's just a branch of who I am at this point. Final Fantasy VII started for me with Crisis Core on the PSP, and just absolutely falling in love with that game and being so inspired by Zack Fair. His bravery, his determination, his loyalty, his kindness, all of his values I just saw and was so inspired by that I even included him and his motto of embrace your dreams and protect your honor in my 8th grade graduation speech. I'm sure the parents were in that crowd that was listening to my speech were like, what the hell is this kid talking about protecting your honor and all that stuff? Like, embracing your dream is cute, but protecting your honor, like, it's just one of those things. I was like, I had to include the full quote in my graduation speech here. I couldn't leave it out. And then jumping into Final Fantasy VII afterwards was just an experience that I will never forget. I was absolutely blown away just by everything about that game when it came to the gameplay and the world and the set pieces and the boss fights, and especially the music and the characters. I cannot tell you guys how much I love the music and the characters of Final Fantasy VII. All their values, all the lessons they learned, all the experiences they had in that game, I still carry with me to this day. And I definitely listen to that soundtrack just about every day. Final Fantasy VII is one of the greatest things in this world, in my life. And I will always cherish it. And somehow will always find a way to love it more every day.
To me, Final Fantasy VII is the ancestor of all the games that I like. So I got into the series in 2020 when I picked up the Nintendo Switch port of the original version. And the reason I did that was because I wanted to play it before Final Fantasy VII Remake, because I thought it'd be better if I could appreciate it based on the source material. And I'm glad I did it in that order. You know, the reason that I'd heard that this game was so good to begin with was because of how deeply you could get to know the characters and how interwoven they are in the plot and world in a way that RPGs hadn't really done until Final Fantasy VII. And I could see that even now in the remake. You know, even though it's not a straight retelling, I was still really impressed with the way they redid it with the, cinematic poly graphics, expanding on Midgar, and, maybe the too many side quests. And I feel like that's something I'm still invested in going into Rebirth, what's going to actually happen to the characters, because it might not exactly be the same. There's people that are dying or living, and it's not really sure what's going to happen. And even so, I kind of feel conflicted about Final Fantasy VII, because it's not like I have the 20 years of experience appreciating it, like the 20 years waiting for the remake that seemed like a fever dream when it actually came out. But even as a newer fan returning to remake after playing what was close enough to the original, there's something about it that when I saw Cloud coming in on the train with Avalanche, seeing Midgar again in its newest form, something about it made me think, welcome back.
Hey everybody, my name is Carlos Rodriguez, your doctor recommended dose of nerdiness, aka your nerd today. And I've been tasked by Kevin to talk about what Final Fantasy VII means to me. Simply put, it's the game that launched 1,000 ships, right? It's, to steal that turn of phrase, it's the RPG that skyrocketed not only this niche genre of gaming, but gaming as a whole. It's so intrinsically tied to PlayStation as well, and helping PlayStation's meteoric rise. There obviously came RPGs beforehand, Chrono Trigger, Dragon Quest, 6 previous installments of Final Fantasy. So many that I listed right there are the goats among goats in RPGs. But something about 7, it's so simple, and yet so beautiful and so complex. Some argue that the graphics are the thing that propelled it. At the time they were amazing. Obviously we've come a long way. It's 2024. It's no longer 1997. But it is still a sight to behold at the time. The music kicked into another gear with the onset of CD-ROMs. Like, there was able to have more orchestral music put throughout the game. Nobuo Uematsu got to really flex his muscles. But for me, I always held true that it was a story. Just a simple story of a mercenary taking on a job with rebels hell-bent on fighting the government that bleeds the planet dry. And along the way, finding out who he really is, gaining a found family with them, fighting against his demons of the past, and protecting what he holds dear, and at the same time is that planet. Alongside that, like the themes of lost identity, fighting for your future, and the bonds that they forge along the way have attached themselves to us, right? For so many of us, they made us the gamers we are today, the family that we've created along the way, the friends that we are today. And like so many of us, we're all compatriots in this gaming genre. And so for many of us, we found careers in this beautiful space of gaming because of Final Fantasy VII. It bound us together with this special game, this special, simple yet beautiful game. So for me, Final Fantasy VII, especially in 2024, I think it's the same as it was in 1997. It's a story that binds generations of gamers and hopefully propels us to the next 27 years of gaming and beyond.
While Final Fantasy VII means the world to a vast majority of fans worldwide, Crisis Core, at least to me, is just Zach. Zach just never giving up. He always had that guy always had a smile on his face. He just never stopped pursuing what he wanted out of his life. He just taught me to persevere, never give up, despite what he went through. And he went through a lot, man. Like, Zach went through it, bro. Like, you can't argue that. But for me, honestly, the most important thing I can take away from Zach is to just never let anyone think it's wrong for you to stem down from your moral high ground, because as we all know, especially in today, the world that's crappy all around us, the price of freedom is steep. And honestly, I can't wait to see what we have in store with Zach in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
What's up, y'all? This is Darren, the host and editor of the Rusty Rupees podcast, and I'm here to answer the question of what does Final Fantasy VII mean to me? Personally, I didn't grow up with Final Fantasy VII. For a long time, I honestly thought it was overrated. One of those big games in the industry that everybody knew about, would be gassed up about story, plot points, all of that, but never thought, nah, it's whatever. I know the characters, I know the major points, it is what it is. But about 5-6 years ago, I finally went and started my own journey with Final Fantasy VII and played it for the first time and was immediately proven wrong. Despite knowing major beats of the story, I didn't know the journey these characters took. I didn't know the emotions. I didn't know the bombastic moments that took place in between those major known quantities of Final Fantasy VII. And despite this being my first time playing Final Fantasy VII, I've been a fan of these characters for years. I've watched Advent Children growing up. I watched my brother play Dirge of Cerberus begrudgingly. I loved Crisis Core and everything that entailed with Zack, and stupid stuff aside with the story, 7 has resonated with me for a long time, being introduced to me through Kingdom Hearts and seeing Cloud and Sephiroth fight in that and being like, these characters are cool, but I don't play RPGs like that. Here I am, 20 years later, confused, happy, a fan, obsessed. But 7 means a lot to me. It is for sure a game I'm glad to be here to enjoy with everybody with the release of Rebirth and seeing the real story of Final Fantasy VII be brought to a new generation. The remake was good, it was a starting point, but what we're getting February 29th is what makes people love this game. Final Fantasy VII is a special title for so many people, and I can't wait for more. Thank you for having me.
Hi Kev, this is Take 14. The last one, I rambled for 8 minutes and I didn't realize it. So let's do it again. As the wise philosopher, Cloud Strife would say, let's mosey. Final Fantasy VII means so much to me. Yes, it is a video game that I played, and most video games that I play mean a lot to me. But being someone who played it when it originally came out on PlayStation 1 back in the 90s, it opened the door to RPGs for me. I was a platformer kid, I was an action kid, I was a sports kid, still am, still play all those games, but RPGs was something I never touched until Final Fantasy VII, and since then, RPGs are like one of my go-to genres. They're the ones that I enjoy the most from the storytelling perspective, to how deep I get in the role-playing and the leveling up, and just experiencing these characters' stories, because they give us so much time to fall in love with these characters. And I think at the very core base of why I love Final Fantasy VII, yes, it's the awesome weapons, it's the enemy design, it's the wackiness of some of the enemies like Hell House and the Triceratops tank enemy. It's the materia, it's the iconic music, but at the core of why I love Final Fantasy VII, it's the characters. It is Cloud. It is Tifa. It is Aerith. It's Barrett. It's Red. It's Kate Sith. It's Yuffie. It's Sid. It's Vincent. It's the side characters like Bugenhagen and Dine and oh my god, the Shinra president, Rufus, Reeve, the Turks. Like, there's so many amazing characters that I don't think any character is wasted. They all serve a purpose. And what I'm super excited about for Rebirth is getting to learn more about this new take on a Vincent, a Kate Sith, even Red. Sid is going to pop up and just kind of really dive deep into what they're going to tell us about them. Especially the optional characters like Vincent and Sid and Yuffie. They didn't have a whole lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Story kind of importance in the OG game. Yes, you can do the side stuff and they're great. The Wutai Tower stuff is amazing. Vincent going to find Lucretia is awesome. But I'm excited to just learn about this new iteration of these characters and how they tie into the old ones. And man, I just love this game. The characters, I think, at the forefront are why I love it so much. And is it Leap Day yet? Is it February 29th yet? Because nothing is coming close to something I want to play. I just want to play Rebirth real bad. So bad. Yeah, I think that's it. Final Fantasy VII. It's one of the greatest of all time, bar none. End of story. Avalanche out. I don't know how to end this. Someone grab the black materia and end this right now. Call Meteor. I don't know. I don't know how to end this.
What's up, Kevin Diaz, TKD123, and PlayStation Source. This is Colt Weaver here. I'm at the park, walking my dog here, enjoying some nature, and thinking about that question. What does Final Fantasy VII mean in 2024? What does it mean now? And it had me thinking about my own personal history with Final Fantasy VII. I actually missed it the first time. I didn't play the original on PlayStation when it came out. I was too young and just not interested in those kind of games at the time, but I did play it before Remake came out. And of course, Remake is incredible. The original remake or original remake, it sounds kind of funny, but incredible. It gave me a chance to experience that story in a modern way without gameplay and older graphics, as PS1 graphics, kind of maybe clouding the experience for some. But I'm thinking about the remake coming out soon, right? Coming out in just a couple weeks. And I think about the themes of Final Fantasy VII, the themes of environmentalism, of draining the Earth's resources for corporate gain. Those themes still ring true today. I think a lot of people identify with that. They see that. And the fact that we're still juggling with those, the fact that we're still needing to hear that message now, almost 30 years later, is really, to me, a sign that we haven't learned a lot. And we still have a long way to go in those areas. We still have an Earth to protect, and people feel that. People resonate with that message. Thanks for letting me share this.
Final Fantasy VII was the first Final Fantasy I played. My brother and I had an allotted 30 minutes each of shared computer time, so we actually combined our time in a rare show of solidarity to make sure we had a full hour to experience the game together. And I have the fondest memories of us sharing the computer and just being excited about what was going to happen next, and sometimes arguing about what materia to slot and what we actually wanted to focus on. I started making it a tradition to replay the game every summer, and every time I found myself re-examining and exploring the themes that the game has presented to us. Themes of identity and self, of class struggle and corporate greed, of finding your people and taking a stand and taking care of our planet and resources. These messages are more timely than ever, and I appreciated and still appreciate the ways that the story, the music, and the characters all combine to make me feel things and to care about things, and how it allowed me to find a story in a video game and apply it to what I was thinking about and seeing in the world. As an adult, I continue to find nuance and meaning in this game and in these characters, in both the original and the remake, and I find it incredible to not only have a game with such powerful nostalgia and history for such a wide player base, but the fact that we're not only getting to share our love for what we've experienced in the past, but that we're able to create new memories together and celebrate a fresh take of this world that we love, knowing that there are twists and turns and elements we've yet to discover. It's a dream. So yeah, Final Fantasy VII, it is a foundational experience for me. And not only do I enjoy revisiting it every year, but I cannot wait to see where Rebirth takes us.